Hello everybody and welcome back to another video! It has been a hot minute since I had a sit down video where I just spilled some tea, but oh my goodness, after the Squid Game era, I decided I need some time off to just have a vacation, and so I did a little girls trip to New York City. I ultimately did not vlog that trip and decided to be camera free just because I really felt like I deserved a break after grinding so hard during the Squid Game era, but I could not wait to tell you about this story. So essentially, I went on a date in New York City, don't tell Tay, and it's with this guy that I've been following for quite some time, and I just thought he was really attractive, and I knew he was in New York City, so I hit him up. I said, hey, I'm in your city. I'd love to meet up. Low expectations, literally just going in for the vibes. He was down, he wanted to see me too, and I was so excited, and so he decided to make some plans for us and said we should grab dinner, and he asked if I wanted to get like Asian or American food, and so it was nice that he was inquiring, you know, on my opinion. I said, let's do Asian. He says, do you like Korean food? And I'm like, bitch, do I love Korean food? Yes! So he said, got it, I have a spot for us. And so it was nice how he kind of just like took charge and planned everything, because I feel like with friends it's very collaborative. When I'm usually hosting friends, I send like 3 spots that I like and then they pick, but no, he kind of was testing out my vibe and seeing my taste and then found a spot. So he offered to pick me up, and so on the day that we were actually supposed to hang out, he texted me saying, I'm coming over, be ready. And I was like, ooh, the language, be ready. This sounds like a date. Because what I'm thinking is friends usually say, oh, my ETA is this time, and so for him to tell me, be ready, oh baby, I am more than ready. So he pulls up and picks me up in his white convertible Porsche. Girl, it was so cunty, because knowing me, like, I'm looking for a guy that's successful, stable, like myself. I get in his car, we greet each other for the very first time, and I'm just like gagged that I'm in this hot guy's convertible Porsche. Like, what? He asks how my trip has been so far, and I was just there with my cousins, and so we had a girls trip. We saw Wicked on Broadway, we biked around Central Park, we went shopping in Soho. It was a good old key. As we're driving to dinner, he brings up that he has looked at my stuff and he felt that I was very energetic and extroverted, and I was like, yep, that's me. He said that he's an extrovert too, but that he can learn a thing or two about being energetic from me, and I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. We're looking for parking, and he jokes like, oh, it's gonna take an hour to find parking because New York City, but surprisingly, we parallel parked in no time. So we arrive at the restaurant, and it's this nice upscale Korean restaurant. I was like, oh girl, this is cunt. Find our seats, and the waitress actually recognizes me, and she's like, oh my God, I watch your videos. And it was just so sweet to have that interaction. And so if you're watching, girl, hey boo. I had my moment with her, and afterwards he was a little gagged. He was like, I knew you had a following, I knew you had a platform, but I didn't realize your impact. And I was like, well, yes, I'm a motherfucking icon, girl. We ease into dinner with simple conversations like what we do for work as an influencer. He's like a finance bro. He then asks about my experience on Squid Game, which, girl, that was treacherous. He then brings up the fact that he actually has dated influencers in the past, and I was just like, oh, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. And then he adds on that he loves dating influencers because they have a very flexible schedule. He likes that they live a different life from him. And it was just really interesting for him to kind of justify his reasoning on why he enjoyed dating people like me. And then he goes ahead and asks about my dating life, which I think is really interesting because I never asked about his dating life. He brought it up, and I feel like as a guy friend, my friends don't really care about that kind of stuff unless I tell him about the tea and stuff. And so since he asked, I was like, oh my God, like, it's treacherous out here. I'm ideally looking for a guy who can meet me where I'm at in my life. I'm looking for someone who's stable, who is secure, who likes to have fun and loves to travel. And he kind of just adds on like, oh, same, I'm looking for marriage. I am looking for somebody who is flexible, someone established. It didn't work out in the past with the previous ones because they weren't as established. And I was just over here like, are you talking about me? Because all those qualities that he was describing was essentially describing me. And so I was just sitting there like, okay, I'm liking where this is going. So then I asked him, how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 26. How old are you? I'm 29. And at this point, it could have just been done there. But no, he was like, well, actually, I turn 27 next month in September. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he doubles down by justifying this age gap of ours by saying, well, technically, in Korean years, I'd be turning, what, like 28? And I'm just like, huh. I feel like he was trying to prove to me that he was worthy of my attention and my time, and that it was coming from a place of insecurity, because he doubled down on justifying this little age gap. So that was something that I noted. So my waitress, AKA someone in the Flawless fam, gave us a drink on the house, which was so sweet. And so we're taking sips and cheersing and all that stuff. And he tells me that he loves going out with his friends. He likes drinking. And I give him this look, which is funny because I ordered a drink, and I gave him the look because he didn't order a drink. And he goes, what was that judgmental look? Like, he's very self-conscious about how I'm perceiving him and his image. And so I was just like, oh, like, I looked at you like that because you didn't order a separate drink. And he goes, oh, well, I'm driving tonight. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes total sense. But the fact that he was a little self-conscious about how I was looking at him, like, okay, he's nervous. So we're looking through the menu, and he tells me that he's been to this restaurant before, but he hasn't been here in like 2 years. And so since he's been here, I said, you know what, how about you just order for us? You know, be the man, take control, take lead. I feel like men love that shit. But also the fact that he brought me to a place that he doesn't frequent often. I feel like he easily could have taken me to his like favorite spots or places he's been to multiple times, but he really curated and he chose to bring me to this place that he remembered from 2 years ago. So it made like the night feel more special. Plates start coming, food starts arriving as we're eating and mingling. He mentions, oh, don't feel bad if you don't finish everything. You don't have to eat everything. And I was just like, that's really supportive date energy. Because a friend of mine, especially a guy, would be like, whatever, eat whatever you want, eat as much as you want, like, no judgment. But he wanted to put me in a safe space where I didn't feel judged if I didn't finish or if I ate more. And so, interesting comment, right? The next dish comes, and it's like these soba noodles that aren't super flavorful. And he takes the first bite and he goes, oh, I don't think you're gonna like this one. And I just was like, girl, he wants to impress me. Because a friend just could have been like, oh, these are kind of bland, or like, ooh, these aren't flavorful. But he took the first bite and was like, ooh, I don't want Kevin to judge me. I wanna impress her. I don't think you're gonna like this one. That's something a date would say, baby. Like, he kept looking for my validation, which was kind of cute, but I reassured him. I said, no, like, I'm not a picky eater. I'm the best person to eat with. I will eat anything and everything. At one point he mentions, oh, your last name, Ninh, it's Vietnamese, right? And I'm like, oh, not many people pick up on that. A lot of people think like Nguyen. I was like, how did you know? And he was like, oh, well, you also look Vietnamese. And I was just like, oh, like, he's looking at me, you know? I mean, it's not weird to be like, oh, you look Vietnamese, but it was like attention to detail. And I feel like the question would have been, what's your ethnicity? Instead of like, oh, like, I'm paying attention to your name, your face, your features. We're wrapping up dinner, and at this point he goes, oh, do you wanna go to a Korean photo booth and take pictures? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. I love a tangible memory. I'm such a sentimental and romantic and nostalgic person. So hands down, yes, with this really cute guy. He pays for everything, but before we leave, he tells me, oh, if you need to go and use the restroom, go ahead before we go. And I'm just over here like, my friends, like, if I needed to use the restroom because I'm an adult, I would just let you know. Or like, it would have just happened. Like, you didn't have to tell me. But it was nice that he was supportive and reassuring and making sure I felt comfortable. I was like, bitch. So I went to the restroom, touched up. I came back and he's sitting and waiting for me. At this point, I felt like I had permission to be a little flirty because of the conversation and the way he was going about things. And so I grabbed him on the shoulder and I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like that physical touch, like, ah, bitch, I know how to date. So it's walking distance. And so we leave the restaurant and we're walking through the streets of K-Town in New York City. And I actually run into a fan in the Flawless damn. This mom comes up to me and goes, my daughter, she watches your videos. She's so shy. Can she get a photo? I'm like, yes, of course. I turn to him and I'm like, is it okay? And he says, yeah, go do your thing. And so I take a photo with her and that was that. At this point, he's really seeing the impact that I'm having on you all. And it's really nice to know that he's supportive and patient with my world. We arrive at the photo booth spot and he tells me, go and pick whatever photo booth you want. And it was really nice that he let me have that choice because I feel like as friends, it'd be really collaborative. We'd kind of just share ideas, but he was like, nope, you take full control. He was really curating the night to make sure that I had the best time. So I picked the photo booth that was themed after an elevator and I just thought, you know, it was really cool. It was really chic. It matched our vibes. Like, bitch, we look good together. For the longest time, I was like, I need to find a guy who can match my style aesthetically and like, ooh, we just compatible, bitch. So we get into this first photo booth and I am very detail oriented and observant and I noticed that he didn't close the curtain for this photo booth. And so I was just like, okay, whatever, I didn't think much of it. We're taking photos, we're posing, and I feel like with a themed booth like this, like an elevator, there's very limited poses you can do. And also because it was the first one and it was like our first time getting close to one another, I wasn't trying to be too touchy. I wanted to be respectful. If anything, we were just mogging and serving cunt, baby. And we did. So after that, he goes, oh, we can take another one. And I was like, oh, no, like it's fine. Like you don't need to spend more money on me. Like you can just do this one. And he goes, oh, it's only $10. It's just $10. And I was like, okay. Like he wanted to spend more time with me. He wanted to spend more money on me. He wanted to be in my proximity longer. And so he goes, oh, you can go pick another one. And so I try to go for this like high angle one where the camera's like up top at the corner. But he goes, oh, how about we do a plain photo booth? And he was very adamant about that. I was just like, okay. And so we go into the plain photo booth that he picked out. And this time he closes the curtain. And again, I'm not sure if he did this subconsciously, but like I took note of that, body language, social cues, because bitch, I'm just socially aware at this point. And I feel like with the plain photo booth, it opens up more room for possibilities and poses. It's more flexible, whereas like an elevator themed one, it was more constricted to what you could do. And because this was the second photo booth and he wanted to do another photo with me, I felt comfortable in this one. We're doing cute poses. At one point he gets lower and I get on top of like a stool. And so I'm above him and I just wrap my arms around him and give him a hug. I felt so inclined to, and I felt like I had received permission based on those social cues. And also we had props in this one, like sunglasses, and they kept falling off during this specific pose. And I kid you not, we took like 3 photos of me hugging him from behind until we got the right shot. And if at any moment he felt uncomfortable or he was like, this is strictly platonic, he could have just stopped right then and there. He could have like taken his arm and be like, okay, let's change it up. Let me put my arm around you. But no, he let me finish this pose. We finished with the photo booth and the photos turned out so cute. I have them right here and I'm not gonna show you all because I wanna respect his privacy, but after the photo booth, he goes, do you want to get something sweet? And I was like, oh my God, he wants to get dessert with me too? Like this is a whole package tonight. Like he's really curating this to truly be a freaking date. And he wants to spend more time and money on me. And I was just like, oh, well, yes. So as we are exiting the photo booth spot, he asks me, how did you find me? And I'm like, a little hesitant because I found him on my Explorer page because I thought he was hot. He goes, was it because of my thirst traps? He brought that up and I was like, yeah, it was because I thought you were attractive and it was probably the Explorer page. And I just thought it was interesting for a guy friend to bring up his own thirst traps because I feel like he could have easily just been like, oh, how did you find me? Was it through TikTok? Was it through Instagram? Was it my videos? Mind you, this guy doesn't really use social media like that. He's a pretty private guy as he claims. But the fact that he's cognizant that he knows that he's hot and posting thirst traps, I was just like, oh, like he cares about how he looks and his image, you know what I mean? But by bringing that topic up too, I felt like he was gauging if I found him attractive. And so he brought up the thirst traps himself. And at that point, I just had permission to flirt back. So I said, yeah, I thought you were attractive. We're walking through the streets of K-Town. At one point, I noticed a K-pop poster of ATEEZ and I was just like, oh my God, I saw them a few weeks ago in concert. And he's like, are you a Korea boo? And I was just like, no girl, like I just like K-pop. And unrelated to the topic, but kind of related, he then asks, oh, who's your celebrity crush? Kind of like trying to feel what my type is because I brought up a K-pop boy band. And of course, I say none other than Kim Tae-young, and he goes, oh yeah, Kim Tae-young is handsome. And I was like, yeah. But it was interesting that he brought up my celebrity crush. He was almost asking permission or like validation if he was my type. We're walking some more, and at one point he's a little bit faster than me, and you know, given cultural backgrounds and differences, he never held my hand, and as an American, I was just like, girl, he needs to be holding my hand at this point, helping me walk through the streets of New York. But I didn't think too much of it because, again, of our cultural differences. He did say he likes to take things slower when it came to relationships, and so I just had that in mind. But he turns back to me and goes, oh, am I walking too fast for you? And I was just like, oh no, it's fine. He looks down at my shoes and he goes, oh, you're not wearing heels, are you? And I was like, no, they're flats. And he goes, oh, okay. And I just thought that was really interesting that he noted that. A guy friend would have just noticed that he was walking too fast and maybe pulled back and slowed down non-verbally, wouldn't have said anything, or wouldn't have even done anything, period, let alone asking if I'm wearing heels. He wanted to make sure I felt comfortable. He wanted to make sure I felt seen, I felt safe, I felt protected. Girl, what guy friend's gonna ask if I'm wearing heels? Like, bitch, like he was also checking out my outfit. He was looking at what I was wearing. We finally get to a dessert spot, which is actually a matcha spot. And I told him, I was like, hey, like, I don't think I want matcha because it was like 10 p.m. and I don't do well with caffeine. He goes, oh, okay, how about boba? And I'm like, no, that's kind of heavy. And then he goes, oh, okay, so what kind of vibe do you want? He was truly curating this night for me. He asked for my opinion. He asked what I wanted and he delivered because I was like, oh, maybe something where we can sit down, like shaved ice. And he goes, got it, follow me. And that was so attractive. I loved that. Like a man that was a problem solver and a man that leads and takes initiative. I felt so protected and safe because of that. I was just like, you know, a dumb guy would have been like, okay, well, I can't think of a spot, I don't know. Or in this case, like if it were friends, I feel like it would have been a collaborative experience where it's like, okay, well, let's take a minute to look at Google Maps and see what's in the area. I told him what I was looking for. He said, got it, follow me this way. Ah, that was so hot. So we finally get to the shaved ice bingsu spot and we're in line, and as we're in line outside, I'm taking photos of New York because I've never been in K-Town before. And at this point he goes, oh yeah, take your time, like get all the content that you need. And that was just like really assuring and supportive of him to say, especially since he's dated influencers in the past. He's almost showing that like, hey, I understand your work, I understand your world, count me in. Because I have tons of friends, especially guy friends, who also do content, but they're never reminding me or reassuring me and supporting me that like, oh yeah, if you need to get your content, take your time, do your thing. Like, I just fucking do it. We finally get in and we place an order and we sit down, and the girls sitting next to me were also fans. Bitch, I got recognized by so many of y'all this night. They were like, are you Kevin? I was like, yes, girl. And so he goes to pick up our order, and as he's leaving, she goes, are you on a date? And at this point, I turned to you, one of y'all in the Flawless fam. I was like, I think so. She was like, oh, he's so cute. I was like, I know. And as he's coming back, I'm like, oh, she's like, good luck. And in that moment, even though she wasn't like my friend, but she knew who I was, it was so nice to have that energy. I needed you, girl, so thank you. He comes back with our mango bingsu. I wanted something light and refreshing. And we're having more small talk. We talk about our favorite movies. He loves sci-fi things like Lord of the Rings, Dune. I tell him I love horror movies like Final Destination. I'm like, what do you like to do for fun with your friends? He's like, oh, I love doing sports like tennis and golf. And I was just like, oh girl, this guy really is rich because those are bougie sports. He's like, what about you? I was like, well, I was a cheerleader in high school. And then he adds on, oh yeah, like looking at your page, I wouldn't have expected you to be so fit and toned. Like he's mentioning my physique, the way I look. And so I was like, yeah, like I have an athletic bone in me. Sometimes I do Pilates, and that's the thing with me. I'm well-rounded. I can do it all, baby. I look glitzy and glamorous, but I can also get down and dirty too, baby. He then adds, oh, I was also expecting you to be taller in person, which is really funny because I feel like online I'm very cutesy and bubbly, and a lot of people associate that with me being shorter. I'm 5'7" for reference. And so I asked him, I was like, oh, like, is that a bad thing? He's like, no, that's just an observation. That's just what I expected, and that's not a bad thing. And I was just like, okay, interesting. So not only did he mention my physique and the way I looked and my ethnicity, He also mentioned my height, which I feel like my guy friends don't give a fuck about my height. I'm like picking at this dessert because bitch, I am a foodie, I will eat. And he again says, oh, don't feel pressure to finish. And here he is again reassuring me, it's okay, like don't feel bad, take your time. I see you, I support you, I'm here for you. I was just like, okay, sir. At first it could have been like, oh my God, he's just being performative. But at this point, like it's consistent. So he truly is treating this like a date, no? I try to take a picture of the dessert and of him just to like commemorate the memory, and especially if we're just friends. And he goes, oh, I get shy, I'm shy. And he like doesn't make eye contact with my phone. And I was just like, a guy friend easily would have just been like, or ooh, or with the freaking dessert. Like, why are you acting so coy all of a sudden? Because you know the vibes that you're creating. You know what this is. That's why you're shy and that's why you're hiding. So we wrap up dessert and we end up walking back to his car, but he offers me mints and then he takes some mints himself. And I'm just like, okay, baby, I know what Altoids mean because this is signaling a kiss, right? So I accept just to show him that like I'm open to that if that was what he was thinking. And so now we finally are walking back to his car and we pass by some stores. I hear Party For You by Charlie XCX playing and I'm just thinking like, oh my God, like this was so much fun. We get in his convertible white Porsche and when he did pick me up, the rooftop was on. This time he put the rooftop down and I was like, oh, like this is him feeling comfortable. Maybe he wants to impress me. He wants to really give me the full experience. So now we're driving through the streets of Manhattan and I have this hot guy that's so my type sitting next to me. I have my Birkin in my lap. I look up to the sky and see the night sky and I see the Empire State Building towering over above us. The music that's playing right now was called TBH by Party Next Door. It was just a whole 1989 Taylor Swift moment, bitch. I really took that moment in. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this is the date that I'm on right now, the life that I'm living right now, because, you know, as a trans girl, it's rare to get guys to treat me so well, let alone right up my lifestyle and alley. As he's driving, he grabs breath spray from his cup holder and he sprays breath spray in his mouth to freshen his breath. So he doubled down on not just the mints, but the breath spray. And at this point I was like, okay, a kiss is coming, baby. Cause I'm like, what guy friend would do mints, let alone breath spray all at the same time? And the timing of it too, like it was after everything. He drops me off at my hotel. He goes, it's so nice meeting you. And so at this point I reach over to give him a hug and I'm like, incoming the kiss, right? Bitch, he avoids his face and mine completely. I was like, oh, not sure what all those displays of fresh breath were for, but okay, no worries, I get it. You take things slow, our cultural backgrounds are different. I totally respect it. My thing was maybe he was just trying to signal that even though I didn't kiss you, I was thinking of it because of the mints and the breath spray. So a win is a win. I get back home to my hotel, I text him, thank you so much for the night, I had so much fun, I hope you did too. He responds saying, I had so much fun, smiley face, and that was that. Until 1 hour later, he texts me again. He texts me the 2 photos from our photo booth date, and he asks, oh, which photo do you like more? And of course, I'm telling him I like the one where I'm hugging him, so I'm like, that one. And then he goes, oh, can I post it on my story? And I'm like, he wants to be seen with me publicly and post me on his story, like, okay. So even though he didn't go in for a kiss, because let's face it, guys like him in a K-drama don't kiss on their own show until like fucking season 5. I was still so honored that he wanted to display me on his Instagram story, which by the way, again, this was his idea. I never was gonna post him. I was just gonna keep this a private moment because it was a date and I wanted to keep that sacred to me and my heart. So he posts me on his story, he tags me, I don't even look at it because at this point I'm like, I'm just gonna go to bed, I'll repost it tomorrow morning because also, I've had experiences in the past where people would post me and tag me and I wouldn't repost them. and they would take it down. Because I didn't repost them, I didn't give them a shout out, I didn't give them the traffic and the clout that they wanted. They were so disappointed. There was no reason to have that story, so that's happened before. So I was really cautious about that. Because even though this guy says he's private, he doesn't really use social media, he's really good at taking photos, and he did mention his thirst traps, so part of me is like, maybe you do care a little bit. And he did mention that he dated influencers in the past, so I'm like, I don't know, I just want to protect myself. I go to bed and I reflect on this amazing date that I had, because it was a date. Right, y'all? I wake up the next morning and I check Instagram so that I can repost his story, and girl, he deletes it! I was like, oh, maybe he was a clout chaser because of, you know, my theory. But as an emotionally mature person, I just straight up ask. I don't like playing no games. I don't like guessing. I don't want to stress myself out more than I need to. Let me ask for clarity, okay? I go, I was gonna repost your story of us because I thought we looked so cute. What happened? He goes, I was getting so many DMs, people asking me if you were my girlfriend, which I'm sure that might be uncomfortable. That might be awkward. Especially for a guy that's private or taking things slow. But as a private guy, you were the one that suggested to post me on your story, so you're not as private as you make it out to be. And also, if you want to go slow, the picture that I picked out that you asked for my opinion is very couple coded, so any person looking at it would know. So I'm not sure what you're getting at, mister. So I tell him, oh, well, I can see why we do look cute together, like, haha. But I totally understand if you're a low-key guy, just trying to respect his boundaries and understand that he is a private dude. But no, he suggests, oh, I can post it again maybe, and this time I'll caption it friends with 3 S's. I'm like, friends? Did he just friend zone me? Or is he just trying to like neutralize the situation and not seem weird? I don't know. At this point, it was interesting because it's like, you had such a great time with me. Clearly, your actions were consistent. It was authentic. It was giving date. And then suddenly when the public's opinions and words came in, you are pedaling back because, oh, suddenly people are perceiving me. I'm very in control of my image. I need validation from you. I need validation from the audience. Like, that's what it was giving. So rather than owning the date and like owning if he liked me or not, or even like our platonic friendship, as he says we are, friends with 3 S's. It was giving insecurity because a secure guy would have left the photo up if he liked me, and if it was platonic, as he says we are, a secure friend would also just have left it up and responded to the DM saying, oh, she's just a friend, or oh, she's from out of town, I'm showing her around. Like, if you were so secure in that, you wouldn't even take it down. So something's fishy. Either way, whether it was clout chasey reasons or he's just insecure and needed validation from someone, something, and was in control of his image, I didn't like that. He also suggested, he's like, oh, maybe you can post the story and then I'll just repost it, which I understood that perspective because maybe it wouldn't look as forward if he were to do it on his own versus like me doing it and just like him reposting it and making it look softer. And so because he suggested it, I said, okay, sure, like I'll post it, but don't be shy about it this time, hee. And so again, I never wanted to post him on my story. I wanted to keep that moment private for just him and I, but since he was so adamant about it and he said he would repost it, I said sure, so I posted him on my story. I did tag him, but I hid the tag away so that way it wasn't clickable, so he wouldn't get traffic. To one, respect his privacy because he says he's a private guy and doesn't really use social media, but also to protect myself because again, what if he's a clout chasey dude? I don't want him to get what he was, you know, trying to get this whole time. I hope that's really not the case, and I don't think it necessarily was, at least not at the beginning, because I would have felt that energy way earlier on, girl. I've been in this industry for 13 years, girl. I would have clocked it immediately if he was a clout chaser. And also all of our conversations weren't really revolved around work at all. A lot of my guy friends or a lot of people in my industry or like my peers, we talk about analytics, we talk about ideas, we talk about work and our story with influencing a lot, but with this guy, that was barely the topic of discussion, and so I never had the inkling that he was in it for that. So the story is up, a few hours go by and he doesn't repost it. However, he has seen the story in all my other stories after that post, so he saw it. A whole 24 hours goes by, the story is expired at this point, and he never reposts it, even though he was the one that suggested it. I'm over here like, oh, like, maybe he was upset that I didn't have the tag shown, so he couldn't get the traffic, couldn't get the clout. Or maybe he's still contemplating about, you know, how people see him, people see us, and, you know, he's not ready to confront those feelings that he curated that night. Either way, it was just not the treatment that I deserved from a guy that I was romantically interested in, or a friend even. So at this point, I'm just gonna ask him, because again, as an emotionally stable person, I'm gonna ask for clarity and communicate. I straight up was like, hey, I noticed you never reposted the story like you said, holding him accountable, because bitch, I didn't forget that. No worries though, because at the end of the day, honestly, it's not even about social media or like the story. It's more about the substance and our connection and about that special night that we had. So I noticed you never reposted the story, even though you suggested that. No worries. It did make me curious though. Did you see our time together as a date or more friend vibes? He responds and goes, definitely friends. I'm not dating at all. Sir, are you okay? Are we living the same experience? Because what do you mean you're not dating at all? That literally was textbook date. The conversations, the way you led, the social cues, the mints, the breath spray, the asking if my feet are comfortable and wearing heels, like asking me if essentially he was my type, like, bitch! You all tell me, like, I'm not going crazy, right? Like, that was a date. Like again, there were way too many pieces of evidence to think otherwise, okay? It was really consistent that it was a motherfucking date. I'm gonna live in my truth because that's what I experienced, based on what he curated and gave me. So whether or not he wants to admit that it was a date, it freaking was. And to me, with his actions, it showed that he did like me. He did like my company. He did like spending time with me. He felt some type of connection, because there's no way he would have extended our time together. But my theory is that, you know, when confronted with the real responsibility of commitment or like his feelings, he wasn't ready for that. And so even though he says, oh, I'm established and I'm successful and I'm ready for marriage, no, you're not, baby. Because an emotionally mature guy or even friend would have just been like, oh, I'm so sorry if it came across that way. That wasn't my intention. I'll be more mindful in the future about, you know, how I make the time with you look. I don't know, like, that's just not the response that I was looking for. It was just really short, very brash. So to me, it was screaming avoidant. Like, even if this guy was hot and successful, he doesn't have the emotional capacity to meet me where I'm at, because he's clearly giving insecurity, avoidance, and also seeking validation the whole night. Like, I never once asked, like, oh, am I your type? Like, what's your type in girls? Like, I just showed up authentically myself, fun, charismatic, and he this whole time was, oh, I don't think you're gonna like the food, or oh, was it because of my thirst traps? Oh, like, who's your celebrity crush? Like, he was grasping for validation the whole night, baby. He's not as secure and like all masculine as he makes himself out to be. So I respond saying, got it, thanks for letting me know. Either way, I had such a fun time. And I feel like that was just such a mature way to just kind of like, okay, got it, it's done, moving on. And to this day, he never even opened that message. I just thought it was really rude and disrespectful, because if you were my friend, as you know he's claiming to be, he would not prioritize himself and how he feels versus, or how he looks versus how I feel. Bitch, I thought I was living in an episode of Singles Inferno, but no, I was living in an episode of Hell's Kitchen. It's been almost a week since that date happened, and honestly, it really wasn't much of a loss, because if he was never able to bring and meet me where I'm at right now emotionally and mentally, then it was never gonna happen, period. Like, if I were to describe him in 3 words, I would say self-conscious, attractive, and mysterious. I'm confident that he genuinely liked me, and maybe I even surprised him, because if anything, he felt the need to always impress me, and maybe he saw me as somebody that was kind of out of reach, because I'm somebody that is so in tune and self-aware and confident and established, that he felt a little insecure and had to kind of prove his worth to me. And maybe that shocked him a little bit. He's never met a girl like me. And so when confronted with his actual feelings, when people were asking like, oh, is that your girlfriend? He's like, oh, I'm not ready for that. He had to look in the man in the mirror and he didn't like what he saw. So even though it didn't work out in the end, romantically or platonically, I'm really proud of myself because I grew so much from just that trip alone, from that date alone in New York City. I truly am living my 1989 moment right now because, I mean, if anything, my time with him reassured me that I am desirable. Not only am I desired and wanted, but I'm able to attract my ideal type. Girl, for the longest time, my ideal type is like, you know, tall, attractive, successful, established, treats me the way that he did. And if I were to like, you know, reminisce about all the times that I was like, oh, when will that ever happen to me? Bitch, guess what? It fucking happened. So if I was able to attract my ideal type on paper once, I'm so confident I can do it again. The thing that makes me sad though is that actually after that date, I went and hung out with my friends during that weekend at Anime New York City, which is an anime convention. And my friends and I, we had Korean barbecue and I was telling them about the story and I brought the photo strips and I was sharing them with the table and I actually forgot to take one back and I left it at the restaurant. I remember I went back to my hotel and I was looking through my purse and I totally noticed that I left one behind and so I ran through the streets of New York and I asked the front desk people, I was like, did you happen to see a photo strip at the Korean barbecue table over there? They're like, no, nobody gave us anything. We don't see anything here. We'll go ask the people that are cleaning your table. And so they go up to this man and the man goes, is it this? And I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. Walking back to my hotel after having that photo strip in my hand, it really reassured to me of my heart. I'm really such a romantic and sentimental type of girl. And I feel like any guy would be lucky to have a type of girl like me that loves the way that I do. The type that will run through the streets of New York just to get our photo strip back. I remember telling my guy friends about this and they even were like touched. They were like, oh my God, if a girl told me that they did that, like I would actually like fall in love with her. I was like, thank you. It also made me realize what I was looking for in a guy. I mean, I already had a good idea and I knew that I wanted him to be established, successful, attractive, all those things. But now more than ever, I'm looking for a guy with consistency. Someone that can follow through with their words and actions. Someone who is confident and secure and isn't gonna be afraid to publicly say, I like her, yeah. Ain't nobody gonna be deleting a story of me. I need a Travis Kelce to my Taylor Swift, baby. Until then, I'm just gonna continue working on myself, climbing the ladder, building my empire, being a baddie, and just focusing on my transition. Also, my friends and I, after Anime New York, we went to an after party and I remember waiting for my friends to come and I'm just dancing alone. One guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, can I dance with you? And it was like, wow, like he noticed my energy, he noticed my vibe and he liked it. I attracted him. And also at the end of the night at that same rave party, a guy came up to me and was like, oh, I'm leaving, but I just wanted to let you know that I think you're beautiful. Again, I'm just here minding my business, hanging out with my friends, and I'm just attracting guys. So clearly my energy and the way that I carry myself is valid, it's enough, I'm worthy of love, and it was just so validating and reassuring to know that like, yes, I am perfect the way that I am. It's not me, it's him. So all of this to say, I feel so much more resilient, stronger, confident. I guess you could say that I have a chrome heart. So that was my K-drama date in New York City turned into actual drama. So many of you have been wanting to hear this and I was so willing to share this. Sorry if it was so long, but there was just so much tea. This is my way of journaling. You know, if Taylor Swift can write songs, this is me making video diary entries. This was so cathartic for me. Thank you so much for listening. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and input on this guy. Was that a date? Did he like me? Was it truly friends? Am I Delulu? Where's Kim Tae-young? But I love you all so much. Cannot wait to jump back into my she-her era and just focus on me and my transition. But remember everyone, to be flawless is to be yourself. Bye!